All right, welcome to an episode of the Contrarian Hour, and we aren't off schedule. We recorded an episode that wasn't up to our standards, so we decided to not release it. So,
Yep. So
Yeah,
we
we-
actually were hard out there working in the fields for you guys, but sometimes we just swing and we miss.
yeah, but it also adds to the lore. Now you know there's shelved content out there. So years down the road, there's going to be some YouTubers saying, like, the deleted Contrarian Hour episodes that you never heard. So the top 5 Contrarian episodes that never made it to the air. Because there is another one floating around out there somewhere.
Dude,
but
you have like 3 in the bank right now.
yeah, well, I won't get into it because I actually have a bone to pick with you on it. But I'll let it go because while it's in my head, I want to say, please like and subscribe while you're listening because I usually don't remember to say that. And we've been on a roll. So I am saying that now. I am a little late for this episode because I was setting a new cold plunge record. And, it's been tough. I feel like my feet are getting frostbitten when I'm in there. And I used to only be able to make it a minute. But then I made it 3 minutes because there was a cute guy named Austin in the cold plunge with me. And he was encouraging me. So that was really platonically nice of him, and I could tell Tyson was getting a little jealous. So
encouraging
I
you physically or sort of spiritually?
Listen, he just said, "Hey, you can do it. You can do it." And I was like, "You're right." Well, he did make a good point. He said, "Your body's already numb, so I don't know why you can't just sit there another 2 minutes." And I'm like, "Fair enough." So I was able to do that. He gave a little fist bump, and I'll see you around. He's a good kid. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it did get me thinking because...
the name Austin makes me think of like this guy with a kind of like a twinkish, but like a clean buzz cut kind of person with blonde hair. Am I right?
He was a little twinkish, but he was more Greco-Roman, kind of tall, in great shape, had that curly black hair, nice eyes. Right? So, but you don't want to talk about that. You're not ready for that conversation. So maybe we'll see him again sometime. But my new routine is, gym, sauna, steam room, cold plunge. And I will say the benefits of the cold plunge are immeasurable. They really are. It gets your day off on the right foot. That's all I can say. So I'm all about it. But there are some places, right? And
For
I used
Moyer,
to be
the sauna is when the workout really begins.
the what? Says the guy who's what did you come? No, it was someone, an ex-co-host, who the graveyard of people who have participated in this podcast. I think there's like a curse floating around somewhere, but wasn't there an old co-host on this podcast who recommended some anime that was in a sauna and they were gay?
Oh, yeah.
Or you got sent to other dimensions? What was that?
I think you're mixing up the fact that one of them recommended an anime that's based in a bathhouse, and this experience that I told you about one of my family members that happened also in a bathhouse. I think you're intertwining 2 of them together.
But also, you had a dream that Joe Rogan raped you in a bathhouse as
That's
well.
true. It's sort of like a motif coming apart in this podcast.
So
Common themes.
an archetype, some would say. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I should be asking you the questions about how things go in the sauna and the hot tub and wherever else for you. But it sounds like a dangerous place to be when you're around in incorporeal form as well in your dreams. So you're not even, there's like a Freddy Krueger, Joe Rogan that's able to do that to you in your dreams in the sauna. So, no, but it got me thinking because I can't stand this. People always say this to me when it comes up.
By the way, if you guys didn't listen to that, go back to listen to the episode about Joe Rogan's bathhouse thing. But I was just so upset because, dude, in the dream, when I was like forced to do those things, like in Joe Rogan's sauna, I'm like, this is clearly a dream. Surely I can like dream myself out of this situation, but I just couldn't. I'm like, dude, really? Like, I'm in a fucking dream. Can I just like dream a hole in the wall for me to run away? But I couldn't. They just forced me to do that shit. So it's like,
you were taken back by the game master, the dream master. He's the one who's taking ayahuasca, and all the dream gnomes are under his command, so he can just tell them to keep you captured there. I have no idea what you're supposed to be able to do about that. But no, I was just gonna go off for a second because it really always bothers me, and I don't know if they have them globally. Do they have Planet Fitnesses in New Zealand?
No, but we have something called City Fitness.
Okay, those are nicer here, and it's probably a different company altogether. But Planet Fitness is a $30 a month gym, and that's for the nicer VIP Black Card Spa package. And I notice there's such a stigma around the gym still. And I used to go to one back in the day. They're actually pretty clean. And people say the same thing all the time. They always go, oh, don't they have a pizza day or a bagel day? That's literally never happened. I don't know where. That must be some sort of urban legend where at Planet Fitness they have a day where they give you bagels and cream cheese and pizza. And it's like, it's up to you. It's not like they force it down your throats or anything like that. It doesn't make any sense to me. So all these people, they're like, oh, yeah, it's bad for you, all this. And meanwhile, they're always fatter than me. The people saying that are always fatter than me. So I started to say, well, then what do you do? I don't get it. Like, I'm going there. I'm doing what I need to do. The amenities are bad and they're clean. And you're fat talking about how you can't eat bagels at Planet Fitness. I don't understand where the disconnect comes from. But I will miss my time there. And obviously they don't have a hot tub, steam room, and all the amenities that I've come to know and love. But there are maybe some workout classes there that I haven't jumped into yet. And maybe they have one to teach you how to do the Maori haka. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
No. You know what? This has actually been on my mind for a long time, and I've noticed people talking about this on Twitter a lot recently, for some weird fucking reason. But
Here he goes.
For some weird reason,
defend your country. Get on out there. Do it.
For some
you're
weird fucking
patriot.
reason, right? People seem to be going after the Maori people and claiming that they're like Africa tier savages. Have you seen this on Twitter recently? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like all these people that these trad accounts saying like, "Oh, look at this dude doing the haka, look, it's savage," and all that shit. Have you seen this stuff?
Well, they'll always quote tweet it and say that these are not a serious people, and they'll show the same video over the past 2 years of the one woman in whatever their equivalent of a house chamber is over there going, doing her haka. She's kind of cute.
They keep drawing parallels for, like, to Maoris and like the American diversity hire politicians like fucking AOC or Ilhan Omar. You know, much in the same way that the RNC will introduce some like fucking Indian prayer, or AOC will show for some third world country cause. They think that the Maoris are doing the same shit with their haka, and this is how you can tell that these people are intellectually lazy and full of shit. And when they claim to know something that they're talking about, when they claim to know what they're talking about, they're full of shit, right? So, for let me just clear the air, all right, and let me break down the fucking haka
Maori
once and for all.
apologist. Oh okay. No, he answers the haka question.
The haka is literally a fucking welcoming ceremony dance that different Maori tribes use to greet each other. The haka is only done in New Zealand, or when one of our teams, like sports teams, compete athletically overseas. Okay, the overseas thing, I'll give you guys a pass. You can make fun of that all you want because we are bringing that to your eyeballs. Everything else, however, is not available to be made fun of. Okay, like the Maori people like it. The people in New Zealand who are white or not Maori, they don't have a fucking problem doing it. The only people that seem to have a problem with it are some loser weirdos that don't even live in the same fucking hemisphere of the planet. So it's like, what even is the problem here? You know?
You know what? Maybe there's some ingrained American projection that they have because they can't handle seeing an endemic tribe in a country succeeding. It's like, diversity has to be bad, absolutely. And look, this is not an argument for diversity, at least not the American brand of it, because it has been an abject failure. But at least in New Zealand's case, they've been able to commingle and live with each other while all having different brands of race in the country. And you could say that maybe to a lesser degree with Australia, but I hate to say it, even in London or the UK, until the last 10 years when there's just been a complete influx of migrants who have no interest in conforming to, let's just say, British standards or classical UK common law standards. So, but before that, and this has to do with demographics. So I didn't know this. I learned this over the last few years. When other countries have elections, they don't have polling by race. They don't have, oh, this is your black vote. Oh, this is your Hispanic vote. They don't talk like that. America is the only country that talks like that. So we have a problem with everything that we do when it comes to race. So when we see it happening, other countries say, "Oh, they got it too. Look at that. The Haka's just." It's bringing such disrepute to the lofty standards of the New Zealand House Chambers, where oh no, my New Zealand subset of a prison colony state is it's been sullied by this woman doing the haka. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And you know what? If anything, it should make Americans look into the mirror and see that they have completely mishandled race. Because I mean, I understand these other countries are democracies, quote unquote, but maybe not in the same republic way, or they don't have the exact history that America does, as it was a republic from its inception. Here, we have to cater. I don't even want to use the word cater. We have to look at race through a different lens in order to pander and operate polling and elections so certain people can win or lose them. Other countries don't have that. Well, I wouldn't call it a luxury. They don't have that burden, and they're better able to kind of assimilate with the people in that country. So yeah, I think it is annoying. To me, though, it's tough. You guys gotta stop doing it in sports. You gotta stop doing it at sports events. I'm sorry. When you make our NBA male team look like a bunch of badasses by staring at you with James Harden and this fat beard just being like staring while they're like, doing their thing. So yeah, but you were saying that you were the front of the haka, right? It's for the strongest men or something. That's
true. The biggest guys get to go up front, and apparently that's like that's what makes the dance scarier to the adverse tribes. But something else I want to bring out, right, is this other tangent that I've seen. All these trad accounts on Twitter want to claim the cause of like white genocide and white replacement, but at the same time they have no sympathy or the ability to empathize with the Maori, who literally went through the exact same thing. And I don't want to go into the whole fucking history and all that, but I will go a little bit. Either people native to a land deserve special treatment, or it's just survival of the strongest. In which case, the people complaining about white replacement and like the whole like white genocide thing have no solid ground to argue on. It's like, okay, we survival of the strongest. Okay, well, you guys are getting fucking replaced, and you guys are not able to defend yourself. Exactly. So why should anyone give a people native of the land deserve special treatment? Women, though. But it's like, okay, but you're the stronger gender. White people. But you're the white people. So what are you doing? Why is it happening? What do you want me to say? For the record, I do support resisting against like white replacement and like white genocide, all that kind of stuff, because it's their country that they built because their ancestors toiled on the land, because their predecessors died for the land. So why do any of those reasons not apply to the fucking Maori? Because they didn't achieve some fucking arbitrary level of technology that you deem to be of passing worth. Dude, it's like, so one case that really ticks me off, right, is in this case of Carl Volkner. So this guy was a Protestant missionary in New Zealand in the 1800s who was fucking decapitated, and then he was murdered by a Maori tribe in the 1800s, right? And his body was thrown in a ditch, and the people online use this example as like, oh, these people are just like fucking savages and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, can we please have context? Because if you actually read into it, this happened in the murder happened in 1865. Okay, 2 years prior to that, in 1863, the Brits passed the NZ Settlements Act, which essentially confiscated huge amounts of land that the British specifically agreed not to touch when they signed the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. So this treaty, right? It was this massive fucking treaty that the British people made with Maori leaders in 1840. Okay, the British people, because of like extremely like shitty translators, they scammed the Maori leaders to say into signing away all this fucking land. This happened in 1840. The Maori people got scammed into signing away all this land, but after they realized what happened, they were like, fuck it, we'll just deal with it. We'll just keep the land that we have now, and you can have the rest. But 20 years later, in 1863, they passed another act to say, like, okay, well, fuck it, we're going to take the land that even we scammed you out of, even you, the little land you have left, we're going to take that away from you now. So it's like, what the fuck? You can't fucking do that. Like, and then when they went to war and they killed some fucking like loser missionary. Oh, you can't fucking do that. You can't fucking do that. Fuck off, dude.
You know, it is, and you know what? In the face of all of that adversity, they have their own representation in the country and are obviously civilized and are able to, I don't even want to say integrate since they were there already, but they're able to function around to colonize them, because in my country, Native Americans are the most whiny, obnoxious, pathetic losers on the planet. And it's such a shame, because if they only embraced their own history before we got there, so they only defined themselves by being a victim of the white invaders, okay? So that's all they talk about, right? Instead, they should focus on the fact that they were heartless warriors. I mean, they would never give in to any type of torture in selling out any of their tribesmen. They would scalp each other. They would have these bloody conflicts over land. They were warriors. They had a strong history, and instead now it's, oh, I'm gonna drink on my reservation, and I'm so sad, and the white man should give me more stuff, and they took all these things away from me. It's like, well, it looks like the Maori are chilling, doing their little dance in whatever their chambers are, and everyone's like, oh, look at her, she's doing the haka, you know, so they're having a good old time, and instead you go, I give white man ayahuasca trip, and he sees his spirit animal, but also I hate the white man. It's just like, well, you're a joke, dude. What am I supposed to like about you? It doesn't make any sense. Instead, you know, they need to get back into their Last of the Mohicans grind set and do something that's worthwhile as an indigenous people. But what is, like, they should have like a battle royale clash. It's like Maoris versus Abos and Native Americans, and just drop them all in and see who can survive, right? And just throw Uyghur Muslims in there too.
You know what I think is the reason that we're doing that, the Maori people are doing better than you know, the Native Americans and the Abos and all this stuff. I feel like the Maoris have found a pathway for what I would want to call the warrior archetype. So in society, there's people that are just meant to be fucking warriors. They're meant to fight. They're meant to like be rowdy and shit. And they're meant to, you know, like be at the front line of any like physical or violent conflict in the world. And the world needs people like this. These are the people that like are the first line of defense whenever something bad happens. And the Maori are, they do embody this archetype. And the way that they've been able to channel this is that a lot of the Maori people in New Zealand, when they finish high school, they'll immediately enlist in the Ensign Army, and then they'll go to like the Defense Force. They'll become like Special Forces soldiers, all that stuff.
I see. Okay.
So it's like, yeah, they've been able to channel their fucking natural like abilities and resources to become like a modern warrior. So it's like, maybe the Abos and fucking Native Americans should try doing that as well, you know?
It would be nice, and I know they at some points have said, you know, there's a popular football team here called the Washington, well, they were called the Washington Redskins, but then I would never wanted them to have changed their name, because the Redskins is a great name and it's probably a warrior tribe name. But then in the interim, before they are now the Washington Commanders, they were the Washington football team, like literally Washington football team, which they should have kept. I think that's hilarious, just calling them football team. But now they are the Commanders. But that's part of Native American history that we too now are scrubbing and just saying like, oh, never mind, we can't say this, we can't say that, we can't call them this, it's like, okay, well, they don't even have a word to say for themselves. So now white men are just deciding how they're defined in all of our sports and all of our logos and anything else that they had a foothold on. And that's it. So I'm not sure where they're supposed to go from here, but and everyone says like, oh, well, they have their reservations with the casinos. I'm like, I don't know, do they? Who are these like rich Indian guys with casinos? Like, I saw that joke on Family Guy one time. I don't know where it's actually coming from, because I haven't noticed it myself, but it is what it is. What can you do? But all right, that's the good Maori apology segment there. So
I'm just saying this because you know, I've met a lot of, I personally know a lot of them, and they're just good people. They're fucking rough around the edges. They're rowdy and stuff. But if you just aren't a pussy, they'll have your back day one.
Day one.
like legit. If you're like someone entering like a new school and then like you get bullied or something, if a Maori person sees that and he knows that you're a good person, he'll fucking run up and beat the fuck out of that dude like instantly. So it's like, yeah, we need someone like that in society.
Maybe it's they don't see themselves as marginalized people or have some sort of martyr complex that holds them back, because it was a good point. I must have saw it somewhere on Twitter. I don't think I thought of it in my own head. It says, why would you want to take the side of marginalized people if they're the losing side? And it's the same thing with white people. It's like, oh, white people are awesome, and look at all our accomplishments. None that I made in my lifetime, by the way. But you're losing, so you're the losing side. I don't know what you want me to say at this point. So maybe the Maori people don't look at themselves as victims, and that goes a long way. That makes a big difference. So,
And one last thing, I know that you know this as well. If the shoes was on the other foot, and that fucking if so, what I said about 1840 and 1860, if those people were fucking were like white, and then they killed like some black missionary, they would be making Hyperborea fucking edits of those people till the fucking cows come home, dude.
Yeah, that is a good point. Well, that actually reminds me of that the Asian guy who got his shit rocked by those guys on Sentinel Island.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? He's like, no, they really need to hear, and I get it. You're a missionary. You want to spread the word of God. Evangelism is part of being a Christian. But there's one island left on Earth where they haven't heard of him yet. It's an incubator island. And look, I'm trying not. I don't mean to say this, but our creator up above, maybe even he's looking down, seeing like, yeah, what are people doing when you leave them to nothing but their own devices, okay, on this island? And instead, he rolls up on a kayak and is like, he's Asian too. So, have you heard the word? And they're like, what are you doing? And they just start swagging on him completely, just chucking spears. He's just sinking into the ocean, and then he lives. And then he decides he lives, and then he decides to go back. He decides to go back. And then they're like, well, now we kill you. Whatever. I'm sure they don't speak English. They probably have their own insulated language, which is fine. And it's like, why don't you just let it go at that point? I think it's known what's in their hearts. They can't interpret English or whatever language that you try to communicate them with. And maybe he was driven, or maybe he had a screw loose in his brain. But just let the Sentinel Island people go. It's interesting to have a completely uncontacted tribe on our planet. I think that's kind of cool. So, speaking of places we've never been to before, I see one topic that you have, and I don't know if it has to do with what I'm thinking, but he said, I don't know if this has to do with the Mandela effect or what, but you said moon Mandela. What is that, like Mandela's head is the shape of the moon?
Dude, this was a fucking revelation that I had a few days ago.
Oh no.
Did you realize that prior to 2000, like this statement was so perfect, and after I read it, I was like, wait, what the fuck? It's true. The moon is part of the Mandela effect. Did you realize that if you think back to your mind, prior to 2012, have you ever seen the moon and the sun in the same, like in daytime?
I mean, it's been a while. When I was a kid, I would.
Dude, I distinctly remember my first year of university in 2015 and being amazed because I was walking down the street at like 11 a.m. The sun was shining, and then I was like, wait, what the fuck? Is that the fucking moon, like, right there? I don't think it was there before 2012, dude.
Wait. Which I hate to get you to clarify this because that would make you further have to dig into your thoughts. Are you saying we can't see the moon and the sun at the same time anymore? Or are you trying to make an argument that the moon and the sun are the same thing?
I'm saying, since when the fuck did we ever used to see the moon in daytime? Like that.
Oh, and you're saying we're seeing that now.
I think after 2012, that's when we first started seeing the moon like in daytime, and we're supposed to pretend like that's normal, you know?
I don't know. I gotta take a good look at that. Well, yeah, imagine if you're a kid and you said something in the classroom, which, by the way, I'm never gonna let this go. I remember when I was a kid and someone in class said, "What are some signs that you see on the road sometimes?" And everyone's like, "Stop sign." One smart ass kid was like, "Yield sign." And then I raised my hand and I said, "Bridge may be icy." And my teacher's like, I don't think that's a sign. Which, by the way, the bridge right outside of the fucking school had a sign that said "Bridge may be icy." It's literally right in front of the school, and you're telling me that there's no sign that says "Bridge may be icy." That's some fucking kid raises his hand. It's like he was waiting for me to get something wrong, and he goes, "Slippery when wet." And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And she like loved that sign. The teacher was like, "Oh, that's the coolest sign I've ever heard of." And I'm looking around with my hands up like, I've never seen a sign. Look, I'm above 30 years old. I, to this day, have never seen a fucking sign that says "slippery when wet" in my entire fucking life. I had no idea what that kid was talking about. But and you know what? You want to talk about the Truman Show or life being a simulation? Everyone in that class knowing what "slippery when wet" was, and the teacher too, all to malign me. That's what convinced me there's a setup here. Like, where are the cameras? What's going on? That's so stupid. But that's something that you would run to class. It's like, hey, it's daytime and I saw the moon. They would be like, "What are you talking about? The moon's not out during the day. The sun's out during the day." It's like, oh, okay, never mind then. So, and what? Now we're supposed to be fine with the moon being outside during the day, which is great.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, when I told other people that, they're like, "Yeah, the moon's always out." And I'm like, are you listening to yourself speak? You're saying the moon is always out at 11 a.m. Are you retarded? What the fuck are you talking about?
Wait, is that true though?
Dude, that was one strange day. I was walking. It's like near lunchtime. I'm like, what am I gonna eat? Then I look up at the sky, and the fucking moon is like right there. It's not even that far from the sun. I'm like, hold on. How is it supposed to work? What the fuck?
You know, I'm really enjoying this coming from you because I'll say really stupid stuff like, really, the Earth is spinning the whole time while we're on it. And then when we leave the Earth and look down at it, it's also not spinning. And we can land on another planet that's also spinning while it's rotating around. Like, it's just so ridiculous. But you're the one who's more literate about stuff like this. And even you're saying, like, wait a second here. Why is the moon out of this? I don't know. Maybe we're in some sort of Aquarian age. I don't know. There's some sort of change in the tilt, or, you know, maybe if we had a famous astrologer on this podcast, we could know with them again. Some would say. So no, we'll let that go. Leave it in the graveyard of ex co-hosts. If you want to go look through the what's that Star Wars line? He says like, oh, it's like, oh, go into the archives and only pain you will find. That's what it is with this podcast when it was the pink voice. So, oh my goodness. No, I thought when you said Moon Mandela, there was just some sort of Mandela effect with the moon, and that was basically it. Because when it comes to that, there's a few of them, right? That'll always get me. First off, Bernstein Bears being the main example makes no sense to me. Who the fuck was watching the Bernstein Bears or knew anything about them? You know, make it a Mandela effect, but it's just like, that's just, oh, but it was Berenstain. Who cares? I don't even know what it was the first time around. But the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia stuff, I'm not letting that go. Like, that one is strange. That is an aberration to me. There was definitely a cornucopia on that. And also the Mandela one, I do remember that one too. I thought that was really strange. I thought he had already
the Mandela
died.
I saw about the Mandela one as well. I'm like, didn't this guy die or some shit, you know?
Yeah, that's a good coinage to, you know, name it the Mandela effect. So I'm all right with that. But there was another one that really got to me. It was Interview with a Vampire. It's Interview with a Vampire, the Anne Rice novel made into a movie with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. It's actually Interview with the Vampire, which makes no sense to me because I took a vampire studies course in college, and I remember it being Interview with the Vampire the entire time. But no, it's Interview with the Vampire, which blows my mind. So, but now we can add, I guess, the moon existing to that Mandela effect.
I mean, dude, think back. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, maybe it's like a hemisphere thing, but do you see the fucking moon in daytime as well? Or am I tripping?
I mean, Luke Skywalker has in A New Hope. He sees two suns. That's about it. That's all I can think of. No, I'm not seeing it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me that I would. So now that you are seeing it, it's a little bit strange. So I don't know. There was a brief period, I think it was in the David Icke days, where they were talking about how the moon was hollow. I always liked that one. What's going on the dark side of the moon? And when we landed a rover, there was a frequency reverb that gave an indication that there was nothing under the moon and it was entirely artificial. So, and that's when you start getting into Planet X and the Nibiru stuff too, which was all the rage in 2009 to 2013. I want to get back on that. We should just have a Planet X / Nibiru segment or something. So,
you know what's annoying? I could have sworn the Mandela effect happened for one of the kids shows that I watched, but I can't like remember enough to notice like an effect of that. You know?
What do you mean?
Like, I'll give you an example. Like, it's not what happened, but like, I used to watch a show called Cow and Chicken on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, of course I remember Cow and Chicken. Yeah.
But you know, like an example would be like the show was actually called The Cow and Chicken. You know.
You're saying you don't know anything like that, or you feel like you should.
And that's like an example of like a cartoon thing.
You want to talk about? You want to talk about lost memories or media or Mandela effect? There was a movie I was watching when I was younger that was on TV that scared the absolute shit out of me with this robot that looked like the robot from Swiss Family Robinson, except it was going around killing everyone. Like, it was killing kids. It was killing adults. Dude, at one point, it was chasing this kid through a whole neighborhood. This movie, which doesn't even exist, left an impression on me because this one kid gets into this pool and gets onto a floaty because he thinks that robots can't swim or he might be safe in the pool. He might have already been in there, so he just got on the floaty to get away from the robot. The robot puts its arm on the railing that goes into the pool and sends an electric current through it, and it pops the floaty, and then the kid just gets electrocuted and dies. It was so ridiculous. And I Googled this scene left and right. I probably do every 5 years, and I even asked who I was with at the time what that movie was, and they can't remember because that was like 30 years ago at this point. It was a long time ago. So I don't know. You always think about just weird memories when you were younger. Like one time I opened up my fingers and there was a needle between my fingers that grew out of it. It was like I had Morgellons disease or something. It was really strange. I don't know if that's ever happened.
You know what's fucked up? And I think about this a lot of the time. When I was like 5, I fucking like I got like a plug and I cut the wire off, so it was like an exposed wire. And I put the plug in the socket and I turned it on, and I put my thumb on the thing and I electrocuted myself. But dude, I swear to God, dude, after I took my thumb off the thing, after I got electrocuted, I was like, whoa, what the fuck was that? I took it off, right? And I could see the inside of my thumb and it was green. That's fucking weird, dude.
Why was the inside of my thumb green? That reminds me of a story where, you know, my dad's a pretty handy guy. He can do like a lot of construction work and things like that. And he was saying the one thing he'll never mess with again is electric. He was messing around with the electric box, the breaker in the basement one time, and he did something that he shouldn't have. And it just blew out his whole arm, and his whole arm turned black. And he's like, did I just lose my arm? So he obviously recovered from it, but let that be a PSA to everyone. You can be as handy as you want. Don't do anything with the electric. Just leave that up to the professionals. So, yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to keep a closer eye up on the skies these days. Remember when they were talking about UFOs for the longest time for the last 10 years? No, like the last 5 years. We had an episode about it, too. Like I guess that's done.
The Pentagon's like releasing information, right?
Yeah, we had to like listen to some guy named Luis Elizondo, and Tucker Carlson was all over it. And we just pretended we always knew what Tic Tacs were in the same way we always knew what slippery when fucking wet meant on signs. It was so dumb. And now we're not talking about that stuff at all. You know what annoyed me about those?
It's like when they were doing that, we had to take these people seriously. It's like, so you're telling me we're fucking we're people have been talking about UFOs for years, but because now the CIA is coming out with like some shitty fucking footage, Now we have to take you seriously, and we have to put on our highbrow thinking caps and be like, interesting. That's really a good point that you bring
You know
up.
what? It
Fuck
does
off,
speak
dude.
volumes about those people, though, because it is an obsession with credentialism. And they don't understand. And it's also the problem, and I talked about this so many times on this podcast, is that we've lost the myth in life, and we have such an issue just communicating anecdotally as communities with each other. So, for instance, I was talking to I was like responding to some op-ed I saw online, and I said, there's a big problem with boomers, aka parents, who don't want to raise their grandkids. So I was close with my grandparents growing up, but a lot of families are finding when they're around our age and they have kids, their parents don't really want to help with the grandkids. They want to go live off into boomer fantasy world. And I just made a comment about that, and someone responded and said, well, there isn't really a lot of like factual data to show. I'm like, okay. So what is the pull of grandparents saying they don't want to take care of their grandkids? These are just what people my age are communicating to each other. They're saying, yeah, my parents don't want to take care of my kids. I don't know why, but it doesn't make any sense. But instead of just like having anecdotal conversations and realizing that some things can be phenomena, we need these like credentialism, and we need some like peer-reviewed polls that are also erroneous too. So I don't why yeah
they discount any anecdotal story because they have this fucking weird retarded belief that there's infinite money available for infinite numbers of studies. It's like,
that's so fucking true.
It's like,
man.
No, not everyone is gonna make a fucking like 3-year long study about some subject that no one gives a fuck about. Okay, like sometimes you really do have to like trust what people say and just treat that as fact. Okay,
why half the decisions I made in my life that were wrong ones would have been right ones if I had just listened to something that someone in my life was saying, because they had experienced it before. I'll tell you, I've never made it a good informed decision from reading a peer-reviewed study or someone on Reddit saying like, here's a link to some poll.
Yeah. Also, it's funny. How do these people believe the world was created before like statistical analysts were given a fucking job? Do they think like the construction, like the recipe for concrete? Do you think people like, what's the specific recipe, peer-reviewed study recipe for concrete? Or was like if someone was a perfect concrete maker and he had an apprentice and he just told him like, this is the right way to make fucking concrete,
That's so true. And there used to be a beauty to that word of mouth. We don't have that anymore. Instead, everyone likes to think that they know everything at the same time. And also, why would you want to go through life being a person that's only informed by peer-reviewed statistical studies? You have nothing to offer. You have no personal insight. You have no way to enrich anyone else's life. Instead, it's just, well, I need to check this peer-reviewed site. So those are the kind of people, because, well, UFOs aren't real. Aliens aren't real. I don't care what you saw. I don't care what thousands of people saw or claim to have shared over the course of their lives. That doesn't matter. But now, the Pentagon is saying that they might have a video of a UFO. Well, there's something. Well, now I definitely believe it. It's just like, I don't even want to say it's sides, but I don't know.
It's
Think about your
anti-human.
fellow man. Yeah, it's such a good
dude.
way of putting it. That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah. So hopefully you'll have that same attitude when it comes to women working, which is another subject.
Going back to the whole like Mandela thing. This is a really rough theory, right? But I feel like
source.
This is slowly going to accelerate. I feel like slowly in society right now we're building a sense of unreality with the world that we live in. How many fucking Mandela effects have happened and we just memory hold them? Eventually I think we're going to be walking down the street in the future and something happens and you're going to reach a critical point where reality seems more fake than genuine, more managed than spontaneous, and then you just fucking have a psychotic break. Like nothing will seem real if you just keep having continued Mandela effects.
I'm telling you.
Eventually you're going to walk down the street and you'd be like, and someone's going to look at you right in your fucking face and say like, Yeah, the streets have always been purple. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the roads have always been purple. Are you crazy? You know?
I do like that the government tried to engineer their own Mandela effect with Kwanzaa. It's just like, what do you mean? We will celebrate Kwanzaa. It's created by some. Also, I love that we have to do that with Juneteenth now. That is such a good one. Thanks, Trump, by the way. Really appreciate that. Putting some stupid fucking token holiday together. Yeah, we do all appreciate that. No, I don't get off.
But do you get what I mean,
holiday.
though? Like this sense of like unreality that's like accumulating.
I'm telling you, I say it all the time. I say it on this podcast. I say it off the air. Watch the documentary Hypernormalization. It makes the argument for why things are the way they are now. And it started in the 60s and 70s when I don't want to like be reductive in summarizing the documentary because it is good, but it is mostly started by the idea that money now has hyperinflated to the point where it's mostly fake. Okay. And I'm not saying money doesn't exist. Obviously, there's tangible value out there, but money as an instrument of debt has created, maybe like what you're saying, an unreality to its existence. And that has kind of spurned an entire, within media, politics, you know, talk about Trump becoming president and people saying like, well, we just live in this strange world. And of course they use the term the simulation, which I hate, but unfortunately it's one that we kind of have to come by because we do in a way live in a simulated world. When you take it a little more literally, our money is simulated, our entertainment is simulated, our politics are definitely simulated. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. So that documentary does a really good job explaining to how we got to this point, and not in a dumb nebulous spiritual way where people try and say, oh, like life as a whole is run by the demiurge and it's not like that. I'm talking about the tangible realities that we live in and experience through media and government and economy. And what you're describing, we're on our way to. I mean, it certainly does feel that way. I always think about it all the time. I don't know if we're adrift right now or what, but I keep thinking, what's next? I don't get it, because when you look back, you see like 80s were a time of bravado and industry and, you know, business. And then the 90s were just a continuation of that, but with the introduction of the internet and things got a little more modest. And now the 2000s, you know, we look on that fondly too. And that's just more progressive inventions and technology and improvements. And now,
unironically, I used to laugh at this, but I think mass psychosis is what's coming for us, you know? I used to laugh at that, but I think it's going to happen, mass psychosis.
What, everyone losing their minds and going insane?
Yeah, I mean, you know, people want to say, like, I heard this really good point, but people always, like, talk about, oh, when Ready Player One tier, like, virtual reality is going to come. It's like, you know, that kind of like meta reality already exists with our fucking like digital networks, you know. And if you just have like this conflict between like the digital and fucking what's real, and you have people spending like more time in like the metaverse than the real fucking universe, I don't see why that wouldn't cause like mass psychosis. You know, someone could just like choose to like live in the meta reality versus the real reality. Who's to say someone wouldn't treat reality as less real than what's in their meta thing, you know?
This is a very esoteric episode, and I'm thinking about a few things at once, but I'll start with boomer aphorisms. Back in my day, all right, you had
Yeah, you remember this fucking scene in The Matrix where oh wait, actually not The Matrix, it's Inception. So you haven't seen that, but there's this scene, and I'm gonna spoil it because I don't care. But there's a scene in Inception where these people, they take the Inception machine and they're in the dream world, and apparently they spend 90% of their time in the dream world, and they wake up 1 hour in the fucking real world to like take a dump or eat something, and then they go back to the dream world. It's like, for them, reality is their dream world. So who are you to tell them what reality really is, you know?
What a hack. Isn't that already a movie with Bruce Willis? It's either with Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone with Sandra Bullock. And she's like, we need to have sex in the machine world. He's like, no, I mean,
that's
in real
demolition,
life.
man.
Okay.
It's a
well,
really
sounds
bad
like
movie,
no one
but
got
I
to,
don't-
well, it sounded like it was prescient in some ways. Look, all I'm telling you is that back in my day, you had your cell phone you couldn't browse the internet on, and you had a MySpace. Okay, so
Yeah.
any boost that you wanted to get socially, you get either a new friend request or someone. It wasn't even a wall. I forget what it was called. It was just a comment, and you got a message on MySpace. You had your top 8. You had your Alias 2 or some sort of flip phone, and that's how you communicate with people. That was it. But even then, you could already tell what MySpace was doing and the creep that would ensue with Facebook coming in there. Now, it's so multiplied, people barely even text anymore, right? So you got your Snapchats, you got your Instagram, you have your Facebook still, and everything collates across all those platforms and gesticulates, and it's this ugly petri dish, right? Where you're saying so much, but you're really saying nothing at all, but being held accountable on all those platforms at the same time. And the fruits of it, and I mean fruits in a derogatory way, the rotten, spoiled fruits of all of this is that people are interacting with each other less and less. And you're seeing that in the newest generation. So when you're saying we're going to live in a world that's entirely fictional, that's what people under 20 are on their way to right now. They're not going out, they're not drinking, they're not having sex, and they're not forming meaningful relationships. What do you think is going to happen when people like that get older? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's really strange in that sense. But I think when you take what we're going through now and its exponential detrimental effects, multiply them over, however, the next decade or two, we're going to have some sort of like Luddite breakdown where we're only going to want to be minimalists and communicate naturally, because at a certain point, someone's going to notice that these are like toxins in our fucking brains. Like, didn't it come out that Facebook was like engineering the most like predatory ways to keep people on their website possible? So you take that across like Instagram.
Yeah, they came out. Facebook was researching like casinos, like literal casinos, for like how they can engineer the most fucking dopamine hits to keep people on their platform. It's like, I'm sorry, that should be kind of illegal, you know, like like for a free platform that people use as a public square, you kind of shouldn't be allowed to do that, you know, like maybe that would offend the free market of ideas, Mr. Shapiro, but you know, yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's true. So when you talk about it, but I guess by nature of capitalism, you not only are okay with that existing, you want it to exist because it creates a profitable venture for a corporation, right?
Yep.
And makes jobs, but it ruins lives. It ruins lives, and it already has. I remember back in my day, I get in trouble for stuff that people would write on my Facebook wall. You're dating some girl with some other girl. So I'm like, man, I'm already seeing the problem here. I'm just going to deactivate, and that's it. So it was already a problem then. I mean, back in the, I remember, man, you know, it was explained so simply by this. I guess it was my first girlfriend. Jeez, it's another surprise. It's another Kid More Therapy episode. No, just kidding. This girl, she said it was when MySpace first came out, and I said, I don't know what that is. I think it's stupid. I don't need to go on it. She's like, no, it's really cool. And she was explaining how she would wake up in the morning and see that she had a new comment, and it felt like Christmas.
Wow,
it felt like Christmas
that's so
to her.
bad, dude.
And I had no idea what she was talking about. It made no sense. But now, and when you're saying that at a young age, I mean, we were in our teens. Christmas was a big deal. Christmas is sick. You know, that's the most exciting day of the year, especially, you know, growing up. And to say it's like Christmas morning, that's the rush that you get. That's the rush that you got from now. And now eventually we'll be maybe wearing ourselves out and fatigued over it. I don't know, but it's certainly going somewhere. I mean, it's really strange. It's really strange. So, I mean, what you know what? It's funny. I see people in just a public service announcement. If you're over the age of 28, get off Snapchat. I'm sorry. Just get off Snapchat. You're an adult now. All right. Leave the Snapchat to the kiddos. It's time to grow up a little bit. Text message like an adult. Okay, I just want to let that be known. But I see people on there just motoring through Snapchats all the time, and I'm like, what are you even sharing? What are you saying? What you're saying is ephemeral in its own nature, by its own like lack of existence. It's just, you know what's strange.
Funny? When I was in university for 4 years, I was a Snapchat fiend, and the minute I left uni, I dropped it and I haven't touched it since. So it really is just like an ephemeral kind of.
Yeah.
You have to be in college to want to do that kind of shit,
Yeah, because that's when you're sowing your social oats or fruits or whatever the term is, and that's where you got it. Yeah, make hay while it's shining. And then you think life will be like that forever, and then you get out of college, and you're like, oh wait, I'm not in this like great social economy anymore. And now it's just whatever friends I made there that are still sticking around. But it is what it is. I mean, a lot of it's very social. What we do now is very social, and the let's just say the way that we communicate is driven by creatures who are more extroverted, and that could say women too. So women have a lot of say in the space.
That's true. I'm kind of off the women train. This has been a pretty fucking esoteric episode, but I'm gonna bring it back to some grounded shit.
All
women
reliable.
are fucking dumb.
I hate women.
Yep. And I've been reaffirmed so fucking hard recently that women just cannot be in politics whatsoever. For those of you who don't know, I work in an unnamed conservative media outlet who will not be named because they might listen to this and fucking fire me. But now there's a lot of women working there as well, and in their own time, dude, I've seen they're like a poison, dude. They're undermining the most conservative people in the fucking in the organization, all the fucking time. Like the conservative guys, they'll say something and then they'll get together in their fucking in groups and say like, yeah, he's too mean, he's too late, you just need to be a little softer. And they include me in those off groups because I don't really like, I never activate my fucking webcam, so they think I'm like chill in it. I don't have anything to say, but
meanwhile,
dude,
you're taking notes.
They're a fucking poison, dude. Like, for example, one of the more conservative guys who I really like, he made a really good case for why New Zealand fucking needs to control immigration and control like the culture of the people that come in, which I think it's like a basic cookie cutter like conservative immigration policy, right?
Yeah.
If someone said that in America, no one would fucking bat an eye. But because it's in New Zealand, that's like more controversial and stuff. And after he posted that and he did his talk and he went off to do his other work, I was in this call with like fucking 6 other women, and they're like, yeah, that stuff just doesn't really fly, like it's not about the race, it's not about the culture, it's about the soul, it's like, okay, I see now why they were forced to get back in the kitchen, dude. Like, this is how a fucking organization
that's
dies.
a conclusion that you draw. It's just funny. So
it's true. It's like you don't have the intellectual capacity to think about like complex things. So just go make me a fucking sandwich, dude.
It's not about intellectual capacity, right? So I'll lead off my statement with saying, I think it's weird when women are overly conservative. I think it's dudeish. Women have empathy. They have care. They have maternal Gaia instincts. And that's what I love about women. So when they lean into their femininity and their intuition and their instincts as women, I think that's beautiful. And it makes them so different from men. Men are analytical. They're logical. They're brash. They're offensive. This is the yin and the yang that is eternal, okay? And it's very spiritual, and it was designed that way by God.
I fully agree. I just wish the women would do their Gaia thing over there while the men try and do some cool shit,
So that's why I'm saying you should be unsurprised that those are their attitudes. But it's up to the men to say, no, we're doing it this way, and that's it, instead of being influenced by it. But I will say, man, I don't know if I want to, but
say
it. They have a way of treating the workplace like it's still high school. There's still a hierarchy there. There's still popularity contests, and they're also I don't know how to put this. They're overly serious about what they do. And I don't know if it's because they're proving themselves, but maybe it's because those skills are better used I don't even want to say about homemaking or anything like that, but they tend to they're good at organizing. They're good at focusing on the small picture. So when small picture problems come up, they're treated like big picture problems. That's a talent of woman, okay? And I'm not saying I hate them for that either. I think it's great that they care so much about everything. I don't know where they find all of the space within themselves to care, but there's so many things at work they get very uptight about, and you just think about it, and it's just like, trust me, this isn't that big of a deal. It's the same thing at your conservative radio station. It's like, hey, we want to have this like overarching point on what we think about immigration, how we can fix it in New Zealand. Like, you can't say that. You can't. It's just like, look, we're just gonna say it. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. If people don't like it, it's just
it's
like,
okay. The kitchen's that way. Just focus on that location, you know.
And I'm just speculating, right? Because I'm not a woman yet, which seems to be the trend in some circles that we've been running in lately. Women think that a lot is important, and they treat small issues like big ones because they're very present-minded, and I love that about them. What's happening right there at that moment in their lives is important to them because that's where their head is at. Men think ahead more often. They think themselves into circles, quite frankly, more than they should. And we can both learn a lot from each other in those sense. Women can be more forward-thinking with budgeting, really, and men could be more present-minded and just enjoy living life. That's why women are able to have more fun. There's more meaning to the song "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" than people think. Okay,
that's true. Very prescient song.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's who sings that. Is that Madonna too?
That is Kylie Minogue.
Are you serious?
Yep,
How'd you know
Kylie
that
Minogue.
off the top of your head?
Because I used to have a Kylie Minogue CD.
Oh, okay.
I stole from
I'm happy
my
about
friend's
that.
house.
You know what? I just want to get this out of the way now that we're talking about this because it pisses me off and we have a little bit of time left. I do not give a fuck that the new singer of Linkin Park is a chick. I think she sounds fine, and everyone's complaining about it, saying, "Oh, she'll never be Chester Bennington." Yeah, because he fucking killed himself. He fucking killed himself. That's his legacy now. Oh, because he killed himself, we need another guy who sounds just like him to sing like him. You want him to kill himself too? It's a girl. She's hot. She has a good voice, and she tries to scream. They got that dumb Heavy is the Crown song between every League of Legends game. Whatever. It's not that bad. But the rest of the band still exists. So at the same time,
That's
you're selling
true.
all of them short. The same guy goes, "One thing I don't know," which, by the way, is the most iconic part of the song. He's still there. He's still there.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? It's
You
so
know,
weird.
I had no idea that people had a problem with the girl. I thought she was like universally liked.
Dude,
But
they have a
you
huge
told me that
problem.
for the first time. And
Hearing
you know,
that
my
for the
question
first
is like, for those people that hate the new girl, it's like, so what exactly do you want the band to do? You want them to just like roll over and fucking die, or what? Like, are they not allowed to make new shit?
They probably say they want an AI Chester Bennington or something fucking stupid. They want like someone from the Gorillas to join them and be like, "I sound like Chester Bennington now." It's like, I don't know.
The strange pick from the ether. The Gorillas.
I'm just saying because they're an entirely digital band, right? But
Oh,
they're
okay.
actually sick. The Gorillas are sick. There's
Yeah,
nothing
they
I
are.
can do about that. But it's just, it's just like such a yearning for this past. All the albums exist. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like, oh, they ruined my Star Wars, which, by the way, I recorded an 1.5 hour long Star Wars autopsy episode that I hope gets released someday. But Tyson's firewalling it for some reason. I'll never know why.
It's just tough, dude, to go through. Dude, it's what do you want from me? It's like fucking 100 minutes long. What
You don't want to listen to me
do?
talk about Star Wars for an 1.5 hours and edit it? What do you mean? Whatever. All right, guys, thanks for sticking this one out. And honestly, I had a lot of fun this episode, much more compared to the last one. Trust me
Yep.
on that.
Yep.
So until next time.
You're lucky that we became fucking Pistons firing on full blast today.
I know, we were just so full of ourselves in the other episode. It was like,
Yeah, that was funny. We tried to put on a fucking like intellectual caps, like, my hypothesis for this theory. Like, no, just talk about why the moon is fucking fake, dude. Like,
yeah, and why slippery when wet is not a fucking sign. I bet you I could Google that right now. I bet you Google probably has like AI images of it being brought up just because they heard me say that it didn't exist. And it's like, nope, it actually exists. Look at all these AI generated slippery when wet signs. Fuck you. Fuck you, Mrs. Lacan. All right. we're out of here. Until next time, we are the Contrarian Hour.